All right. Good morning. Here we go. Now it looks better. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Neo4j Live. I'm completely in sunshine, so it's a bit, I don't know where to, here it's better, I think. Good morning and good evening to you, and welcome to Neo4j Live. I'm super happy to have you all join us today, even as this week is maybe a little bit more quiet for lots of you since you have a couple of holidays coming up. But nevertheless, we are doing a very, very interesting session today. I'm super happy to have Luan Mesquita join me today about Aura agents. Hi, Luan. How are you doing?
Hi, Alex. I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Great to see you again. This is like the second stream we're doing together now in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
It was completely coincidental, but it is nice to have you join me one more time here with this specific session. But it was a good one, or it will be a good one, I hope. Nodes AI is coming up in 2 weeks' time, basically, where we talk all about nodes relationships, obviously, but all with AI in mind. So context graph, knowledge graph, memory agents, AI agents, all these things, graph rack, you name it, it will all take place, and they will all be discussed during the events. This Nodes AI, which takes place on 15th of April. And then we discussed a little bit, okay, what can we do? The agenda is now live. We have announced keynote speakers, and everything is up and running. But it's a long event. It's 3 tracks, lots of things going on. How do you organize your agenda? How do you do it? And you came up with the idea, hey, we have Aura agents now. We'll build an agent that gives you the power to organize your day. So I'm super excited about this, and I'm very interested to see how you did it, what you built today, and yeah. Now I took away a little bit all of what's going to happen before I actually said who you are. So let me rewind a little bit. So Luan is so a special person. If probably doesn't even need introductions these days anymore. But still, if you haven't seen or heard from her before, she's a longtime community member. She wrote lots of blog posts, lots of interesting articles, spoke on various conferences about Neo4j. Recently published a book together with Christoph Willemsen, Neo4j: The Definitive Guide. It is now out on O'Reilly, and is now a member of the Neo4j club, as to speak, from the inside, where she's taking care of, I think it's public sector
That's right.
builds demands for graphs in that area. So yeah, very warm welcome again to you, Luan, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be a part of Neo4j community events. Graphs are everywhere, and when I saw the nodes agenda, the first question was, okay, needs to be in a graph.
Exactly. Um, yeah, that's cool. I see a couple of people also joining from Mexico, from Maine, South Africa, San Diego, Nigeria, Brazil. Welcome
Amazing.
all. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. As always, if you are doing this for the first time, this is a live event. Obviously, you can watch the video recording afterwards on YouTube. But if you have questions, any comments, anything, particularly on Aura agents, but on any other topic around Neo4j, do feel free to put it in chat. I only caveat, I can see you guys in LinkedIn, so thank you for joining. I cannot really send messages directly back to you in LinkedIn, so I'll jump back into the actual LinkedIn event and post answers afterwards. But if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch or anywhere else, you should see the chat anyways. So yeah, but with that, I think we're ready to kick it off. We have a couple of interesting bits, and we show you, I guess, all the way, and how and why and what. But yeah, I'll let you. I don't know. Do you want to start sharing your screen, or do you want
For
to
sure.
give a little bit
Yeah,
of a background?
yeah. I'll do some background and then share. So as Alex said, right, when the Nodes AI agenda was published, there are really amazing talks, right? But it's hard to figure out what you should watch. And with any conference, as you get closer to the day, there are small tweaks timings, or maybe a speaker unfortunately drops off, or there's something new. And there are only so many times you can look across 3 tracks and figure out what to speak about. So conferences are graphs, right? What I'm going to show you today is a very small slice of what that graph can be, because obviously we don't have the attendees in it. We could, and then we would have a much richer graph, but we're going to stay focused on simply schedule building. Right now, it was really, really good timing that the Aura agents went GA around the time Alex and I were actually talking about this. So it made sense to say, okay, we have a graph, let's try out Aura agents. So what you'll see today is how I built that agent. And you will also see how it works. You'll see MCP with Claude and why that makes a difference. And what I'm going to leave you with is 2 things. One is there's a surface application, a very, very simple one that's built that you can actually use yourself to to build your own schedule and prep for Nodes AI. And the second thing is a GitHub repository where you're going to have a dump of the database. To any speakers watching out there, there's nothing personal in that database. Everything that you see on the Nodes AI agenda and website is what's in the DB. So nothing private in there. So you'll get a dump of the database. So if you want to really try standing up your own Aura agent, import the dump. The code for all the tools are there. You should be up and running in like 30 minutes flat or so. But so the aim is twofold, right? One is see how Aura agents work. I'll address what I went through, maybe a few things that tripped me up along the way. And then the second purpose is build a good schedule, because you want to
Yeah.
that makes sense to you. All of us bookmark the recordings. Very few of us come back to watch it. So I think it's really critical
Yeah,
that
true.
you focus on the talks you like. And secondly, with I'm going to share now really, and I'll tell you, at least this is my struggle. I don't know if it's everyone's, but let me share my whole screen. Okay, so here we are. This is the agenda, right? So 3 tracks. Now, the timings are in your local time zone, right? So what you
Luan, can you quickly hide the little bar at the bottom of your screen?
The little bar, yeah. Okay, better.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
okay.
better. Thank you.
So right, so you've got 3 tracks, which is great, but you've got to like navigate all 3 to figure out which ones you're going to attend, because obviously you can't attend the same talk on the same track. The second thing is, and now I really realize other speakers with our clever titles, right? So most of our titles are designed to be eye-catching, but sometimes they don't tell you enough about the talk, right? So what you've got to do is, click on the title and then read the description. And what I found with the agent is when I ran it this morning, I actually found that it surfaced 2 sessions that I may not have actually picked up on purely based on the title.
Okay.
So that's the framing of the whole thing, right? So first things first, right? The purpose of the agent. And I think this is really, really important, because I've learned myself the hard way that if you try to throw an agent at something and you don't really know what you want to do, as with anything, you're not gonna be happy. So the first thing is what is the purpose of this agent, right? It's a very singular purpose, and it is to help you navigate Nodes AI and build a schedule by discovering talks and speakers and maybe companies that you are interested in, right? So that's a very clear statement, and that's important because it helps you frame how this agent should work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and the second thing is it can be really simple, right? So I'm a big fan of keeping things simple to solve the problem you have at hand. You don't need documents for everything. Most of us have graphs around with structured data, and you can very well use AI and agents with your structured graphs, right? And this is slightly contrary to what's in fashion today. There are documents everywhere. Everybody kind of feels almost pressurized to have a document in unstructured text. If you have that, great. But if you don't, you can still improve your life with some AI. Okay, so let's get started. First is a model, right? So again, we have a clear purpose. We know what we're building. You need a model. And this is the model that I chose. Very simple, really, nothing exotic in there. You have the sessions, you have the tracks, the use cases that they showcase. Fair amount of sessions have some prerequisites. So that's kind of useful to know, because I think last year I went into a couple of talks and I was really out of depth. I think it was a machine learning talk. So it would be nice to know, what the prerequisites are. So and then it was too late to join the parallel talk, right? So a bit of a mess. This year I know better, look at the prerequisites. And then you have, of course, the speakers and the companies they work at. The properties are very, very standard, right? Now, two things to note. One is all structured data. And because this is user facing, right? And we don't know how users are going to form their questions. Are they going to say, are they going to say public, in my case, are they going to say public sector? Are they going to say government? Are they going to say, human capital? Are they going to say workforce? Or what terminology are you going to use, right? So if we were to do our standard Cypher queries, we could get by with a fair bit of full text search, to be honest. But I think it's even better if we do semantic searches, right? So we have just two vector indexes, one on session and one on speaker, right? And I'll show you in the tools that they're broad enough to cover all the rest as well. Okay, so that's our model, and this is our graph. Yeah, just want to show you the size of it. Pretty, it's just Nodes AI, right? So pretty small speaker sessions, no attendees. You'll get a copy of this dump. Okay, so let me see. What are we going to do next? We are going to go to the agent.
So you just to look at this. So this is the data you just showed us is basically you took the model you chose earlier, and then you imported the data in a way that it is now available in a graph in an Aura instance that you have with just the data of speakers, sessions, track, and all that. What you just showed. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Cool. And again, let me see. On a session, as we said, you'll have an embedding, and you'll have it as well on a speaker somewhere. Yep. There you go. Yeah. Okay. And then the rest is like super straightforward,
Yep.
Yeah, standard graph. Okay, so now if you are familiar with Aura, you'll know that you have agents down here. If you're not, it's super easy to get started. Alex will share a link to Aura agents in the chat, but and you'll find pointers in the repository and everything. So as you can see, I had multiple versions of the agent. I'm going to take this one, and let's do like a quick demo so that you can see where this is going, and it'll make more sense when I go through the agent. So open question: what session should I attend? I'm interested in this, and this, and this. Okay. So let's give it a bit while it figures it out. So what this one is going to do is it's going to look purely at session information, right? I haven't asked about speakers. It's also going to always ask me what my time zone is, and this is really important because remember we are building a schedule, right? It needs to be relevant to you, not in someone else's time zone. And what the queries will do is basically make sure that it converts to your time zone. Yeah. So standard IANA time zones, they should all work. Okay. So while it's thinking, you opening the thinking, the thought process is kind of really useful for two reasons. One is when something goes wrong, and one is for you to really validate that the tools and the process and the steps that you thought were going to occur really happened, right? Um, Sometimes you get an answer, but which looks fine, but then you realize that
Yeah.
it really wasn't intended through the chain of tools that you configured. And it's really nice to check because um, if it went down a different path and you weren't happy with that, that answer will surprise you later. So it's a very good kind of testing
Yeah.
mechanism. So this one basically starts with, as you can see, it's looking for similar sessions here, right? Natural language search engine for this kind of inquiry, so on and so forth. So it finds actually all the sessions. That's a long output. But then it's not going to give me my schedule just yet because it needs to. Uh, so when it hydrates the sessions, so what it has is a pointer to the sessions, right? A session ID. When it hydrates this, it needs to know, okay, how am I going to convert to the user's time zone, and therefore, I have to give it my time zone. And
Hmm.
here you go. Here are some sessions that might interest you. So we have an IAM session, not so bad. We have governance, real-time policy enforcement. That makes a lot of sense. Um, we have right. So this is something I would have missed, right? Neurosymbolic architecture in production with Neo4j, GDS, node-to-vec, and LLM grounding, right? But you
Yeah, from
dig
the
a bit.
title. Yeah.
Exactly. But you look at
Yeah.
the type at the description, production grade performance management, people skills tasks feedback projects, which is very
Yeah.
clearly in my HCM.
Yeah.
So I'm going to watch this talk now, right? But this is something that well, maybe if I was diligent and I read every description, I might have found it, but chances
But
are
yeah, honestly, who is doing that, especially for small events, maybe if it's a single track, 6, 7
exactly.
events, okay, you might read. But three tracks, like you said, nobody's going to do that. You look at the titles, you look
Yeah,
maybe at the speakers. If you recognize the speaker and you think, oh yeah, I've seen something from them before, that's nice. Okay, then I want to do that,
exactly.
or a title that sounds interesting. And then you
Yeah.
click in and you see, okay, is this something
Yep.
I'm really interested in? But not the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of them are clear, right? Building a cross-border knowledge graph. Immediately, I would look at this, and in reality, it is something I'd want to attend. Um, you know, and yeah, stuff like this. Okay, so build me a schedule. Okay, so now we'll let it go off. While it's doing that, I will let's look into the thought process and see if there was anything interesting. I don't think it should be pretty straightforward. So it found the talks. It it hydrated them. Very very straightforward. Okay, so are we done with our schedule? And yes, here we are. So conflict-free schedule. All the talks. In this case, there were probably no conflicts. Otherwise, sometimes it tells you it did find a conflict and which one it picked for you. But ordered in time. So from the start. So for
Yeah.
me, my first session is at 7 in the evening, and then it's going to go all the way down across every track, right? So pretty happy with this. So
Yeah.
that's the singular purpose of this agent, right? I'll show you more things as we get to different ways to expose this. But
Cool.
right now, what I want to do is actually get into it and show you what it's comprised of. So I will configure. Now, what's in here? So this is a way to interact with the agent from inside of Aura, right? So once you get the GitHub repository after this session, you will be able to create a free Aura instance, right? You will be able to spin up your agent, and you will be able to interact with it directly through this interface, right? With nothing else required. And that's the reason I want to focus on this before focusing on the external ways to interact with the agent. So what's in an Aura agent? You have a name. There's a description. Now, the description is kind of useful, especially if you're using it outside of Aura. And then your prompt. So the prompt is, in my case, fairly large, right? I'll show you what it looks like in the repository. But I think
Yeah.
it's really the prompt is really important, right? So every time you think, okay, it's not important, it is important. And that's one thing that I tuned quite heavily, especially when the LLM decided that, okay, one day it decided that, GMT is fine for you. Why ask? So I have like very, very, very strict instructions in there to say you must always ask, right? How to use the tools. Now, in my case, I don't have too many tools, but it's always better to tell it what you expect it to use. And then,
Mhm.
with this prompt, it seems to be behaving most of the time, but, this is a live demo, so I'm sure we'll have a surprise at some point. Um, how you want your results formatted, what fields do you want, what do you not want, how do you want to how do you want to interpret user instructions, right? So for example, this one is very specific on use cases. So I was testing a case where I said very similar, right? Like government, and then I asked a follow-up question and said, well, it wasn't even a question, it was a phrase saying just financial fraud. I was totally confused. It didn't know whether, I wanted to refine the previous list and whether not. So I added some instructions to say, okay, follow the thread essentially, because sometimes we are trying to
Yeah.
refine that list down. Yep. So anyway, the whole prompt is in the repository, and that's important. Now, uh, internal is what you will get when you are accessing it this way, right? Through Aura. It's free. You ask it your questions, you get it your answer. But then you can expose it externally as well, which is what I've done because I want to show you how it looks through over the MCP server, and we'll come to that a bit later. But let's get to the tools, right? So there are three types of tools at the moment, right? One is the similarity search, right? So let's open one of them. So similarity search really uses your vector index, right? So I've already set this up. This one, I have two, one for sessions, one for speakers, right?
Yeah.
A description that tells you, when someone is asking about sessions, and you want to discover, potential candidates that fit whatever the user is asking for, use this tool first, right? Because every other tool is a Cypher query, and it's going to do some form of match, right? Either a string match or a full text search, and you're not going to find the best results, right? So we're trying to force it to say, always go through the index first, locate either your speakers or your sessions, and
Yeah.
then use that as a jump point into, okay, now let me get everything I need to know about that session. So in my case, I used OpenAI, a small embedding model, and that's my index that was already set up, and I set the top k to 10, right? So we expect like the 10 top matches to be returned, right? So these are the similarity tools, one for sessions, one for speakers. Yeah. The thing that you, depending on what background you're coming from and how much you've been building your own custom agents, you might be asking, okay, how do I do this combined query where I start with a vector search, I do some filtering, and then I directly get into traversing the graph, right? So you can't do that with an Aura agent, but it will do it. Well, the agent will do it for you, if that's a good way of saying it, right? So it will start from the similarity, but it will take those results and it will invoke whatever tools you have subsequently, right? And both tools are Cypher tools. So the next one is a Cypher template, right? This is where you write a Cypher, right? So if I don't want to say if you know what you're doing, because you should always know what you're doing, but um, when you're planning out your agent, right? In my case, I know very specifically what it has to do, right? And I prefer to write a Cypher query that I can reason about. I know is right. I can test it, and I can extend it as I wish, and it will always, always, always work exactly in that same manner, right? So for this particular
Yeah.
agent, I do not want surprises. I'm just not interested in anyone's creativity. So let's get to the tools, right? I have, let me see, a couple of them. I have the hydrate tools first. So hydrate session by session ID. So this is the one that you pick up immediately after your similarity search, right? So you found your sessions and you've got session IDs, right? And when you actually look at the prompt later, you'll see that everything is structured around session IDs holding your tools together, right? Um, it really
Yep.
helps to have a strong thread, especially especially when you go to the MCP side, and I'll explain more about that later. But when I started with the Aura agent, what I did is I threw a lot of things at it. I probably had like 6 similarity tools because I had one for everything, right? Like why not? One for session, one for speaker, one for use case, one because I really thought that I would be asking questions by use case and by so on and so forth, right? And then I had all these Cypher queries that, well, actually, I did not. I had a very broad Cypher query that was attempting to say, okay, no matter what you're going to throw at me, I'm going to find it. And that was the worst thing ever because what happened is that yeah, the LLM got really confused, about should I use this and should I use that? And then it would try multiple times and then it would just, give up. So I stripped that back and I said, okay, few less is more in this case. What do you
Mm.
really need, and how can you chain it together? And if I can draw it on a paper and say, okay, I'm going to start from here, pass this, get to there, do that, then there is a good chance that that's the flow that the LLM is going to be constrained to in this case, right? So hydrate tools, what you do is you define your Cypher query, okay, standard Cypher, and then you supply the parameters that you expect the agent to populate and send to your query. So in this case, I have session IDs, right? Now, one thing to note is your data types. So if you want to pass session IDs, there's no array list data type. So the best thing, well, I thought the next best thing to do was to squash it into a comma separated string, and then you just basically unfurl it in your query, right? So because your similarity is going to find multiple sessions, right? And you
Yeah.
definitely do want it to hydrate session by session by session. So session ID CV or CSV seems to be a good way to do that. So what you do in your parameters is your data type, your actual parameter name that's in your query, and a description, which is also important because uh, it really informs your agent as to what do I require to be able to invoke this tool, right? So if your description is a bit crappy, yeah, your tool invocation and what it passes to it is also a bit iffy at that point. Yeah. So I won't
Yeah.
go through
Okay.
Cypher because I mean it just loads a session, so nothing to see here. So I also have hydrate speakers by ID because some of the questions you can ask are who are all the speakers from Neo4j, right? In which
Hmm.
case it's going to use the similar speakers tool first, and then it is going to say, okay, here are all the speaker IDs, and then it's going to hydrate all these speaker nodes from the graph and pass in the speaker IDs. Yeah, same thing, time zone in this case because when a speaker is returned, I instructed it to say also, it's good to say what the speaker is speaking about. So that's your session, and then you need a time zone, right? So that's why the time zone persists. Okay, so hydrate. Then we have speaker IDs by company, same logic, right? Actually, this is the one, sorry, that's called when you ask which speakers are from Neo4j. The other one is, uh, which speakers are uh, machine learning experts, for example, and we can pick that up
Hmm.
because we have it in the bio, we have it in the
Yeah.
speaker bio, and we put that into that's all that all kind of mashes together in your index, and therefore you can find it. So this one is by company. The reason it's separate is because not every speaker put in their company. And then sometimes the LLM tries to be a bit creative and say, oh, you know what, if your description looks that way, I'm going to say, you work at Neo4j. And that's not always the best.
Okay.
So I pulled that out after some testing. And then, of course, sessions by company, which is equivalent. Then the meat of the logic is really in building the schedule, right? So you have your sessions, you must have your sessions by this point. Or the LLM will use other tools to determine what are your sessions, right? And then the description for this one is actually the simplest because it's the most concise. It does one thing and one thing only, and builds a conflict-free schedule in your time zone. Yep. Again, I'm not going to go through the query, but loads all the sessions, make sure that they are ordered by time, they don't conflict, etc., etc. Pull surrounding details and return them. Yeah. So that is all you need to get this sort of behavior running. Yeah. Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, I was thinking maybe this is a good time for a couple of questions.
Sure.
So one comes from Ramona. Ramona wants to know what LLM is used behind the Aura agents.
So yeah, it's Gemini 2.5 Flash. If I read the docs correctly, I believe so. Yeah, pretty confident.
I think so too. I think I definitely, if you remember, Gemini 2.5. And then if it calls to it via API keys.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So what the LLM is behind, and are there calls to it via API keys?
Yeah, so I'm not the best person to explain the mechanism behind this, so I might defer that question. But
it's okay.
Yeah, so if I'm within Aura, did I change anything? No. Okay. You can call it through, I'm not sure if that answers the question and what's behind the question, but you can call it over REST as well, and you will have a key. And you can call it over MCP as well, which we'll see, and that is basically auth into your Aura instance. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but maybe we can take that later.
We can take that later, definitely. And then more of a side comment from Pablo. Pablo says, "Are you going to build a graph of the Nodes AI sessions after the event with the content of the sessions?" I mean, probably we have been, but
I can't answer in public. No, I can't promise anything.
Exactly.
But it's a very good idea. It's a very, very good idea.
Maybe Pablo, you want to do that since we are providing all the.
Yeah. That would be a very good community effort.
Yeah. To load the transcripts, get that chunked up, do a bit of a thing, and then we have the agenda plus the content, and we can completely match. Then it's gonna be interesting if the recommendation, from the agenda only, and then what actually has been presented, if there was a. Hopefully not, but sometimes you read something at least and you think about, oh, this is going in this direction, then the actual presentation is going in a completely other direction.
Yeah, that's a really, really good idea. So I look forward, Pablo, to you in the community building.
All right, and then there is one from Nitin, but that's going a little bit off topic, so maybe we save that for later. So I see your question, Nitin. We'll save it for later.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have too much to get through now. Before I get to MCP, a couple of things I want to mention is if you're trying this, right, I want to share some of the mistakes that I made. So cool. You save some time and don't do the same. So a couple of important things is so I mentioned before, the prompt is really important. I can't stress that enough. Really tune your prompt as much as you can. And test a lot of scenarios and tune the hell out of it essentially. So not only in terms of like how you expect it to flow, but what you expect it to give back. So that's one thing. The second thing is, do I have? Let me do another quick test here while that's running. Build me a schedule with agent memory docs. Let that run for a bit. I'm going to tell you something else once it gets there. Okay, I'll let it think. I will come back to this one. Yeah, while that's thinking, track your stuff, right? So when you're in the mode of building your tools, right, and you're constantly editing and you're constantly testing, the chances that you forget, that I forgot what I changed and where I changed it, was very painful,
Yeah.
because sometimes I'd hit on, the right combination, and then because I changed so many things, I didn't know what I had changed, right? Uh, so make sure that you back up your stuff. And I don't want to cancel out of this after thought for 15 seconds, but I will show you when we exit this. You're actually in luck today, because the import and export of Aura agents went live, I'm going to say today or last night. So super, super new. What you can do is export your agent, which exports literally the content of every tool with your prompts and everything into JSON, and then
Oh, okay.
commit it. So
Cool.
you know how your agents are evolving, right? So before the import export, I basically copy pasted everything in every tool into files, but I kept committing, and that was only after I lost a lot of my work, because I kept changing things so fast and not in a controlled
Mm.
manner. So that's the second tip, because it's easy to get lost in the moment when you're tuning your tool, asking a question. Then it fails maybe, and then you need to get out of this and get to the logs, look for why it failed. By the time you've gone all the way there and come back, it's hard to remember what you changed, right? So that's the second tip from me. um, this one, let me come back to this one. Okay, so you see here in my response, everywhere I have an ID, right? The session ID. Now we know why the ID is important. So a couple of days ago before the conference, I thought, okay, you know what, this is really ugly, and I want it to be cleaned up a bit. So I did not return the ID, because that's the thread that ties everything together. But I did change the prompt to say, when you're displaying the schedule, just don't display an ID, right? And
Yeah.
that was fine, right? It didn't display the ID. But what happened after that? Actually, I didn't. I did it for everything. When you display a session, just don't display the ID. But what happened after that is my subsequent prompts all broke, right? It was super confused, and
Mm.
it started saying, I can't find any sessions with these IDs. And you see all the IDs here are all in this range of 1 zeros or 1 1s at best. And I started to open the thinking and look at the IDs, and they were like 89,000 something and the other. So I was super confused. And I went to the graph and I queried it, and there were no such nodes, no such sessions with those IDs. So what happened? And this is theory at the moment. I think I need to confirm back with the Aura team, but I think what happens is when you remove the ID from the output, it's not it's not part of your conversation or your memory. The tool output um, is not remembered, as best I can say it, right? So although even though the IDs are in the results of your tool, you will see super tiny. It's the yeah, yep. This was not remembered. So what the agent
Okay.
remembered is the output it gave you. Those didn't have
Yeah.
IDs. But then thanks to
Ah.
my super aggressive prompt saying only use IDs, it actually made up the IDs. And that's why it broke on every step subsequently, because it made up its own IDs, and then it says, okay, I've done my job. You said look up the IDs. The IDs don't exist. There's nothing I can share with you, right? So I put the IDs back in. So I think that's an important thing to note, that if you want to continue your conversations, I think you've got to have everything in your output, right? The output to the user, not the output of the tool. So that's the second or the third thing. The last thing is parameters. So when you get to, so let's say I wanted to build, okay, none of these are very good examples, but let's say, no, not company. Okay, well, let's use this. Let's say I wanted to build a query, and which has optional parameters, right? So sometimes they exist, sometimes they don't exist. You'll find them in various forms where, in Cypher, you basically do like a coalesce on them in case they're null, and then you set them to something or you ignore them, right? That's a standard way, because if a parameter doesn't exist, it's usually null, right? And that's normal. What I did was I somehow, when I first wrote my query, I somehow decided that I'm going to have these optional parameters. So for example, I would add one to say, and this is searching by company, right? So let's say I wanted to search by company or title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the title of not very great, but and I put that in, right? And even if I say optional, okay, and then I try to use this title, right, somewhere, wherever in the query, thinking that if the user has asked only for speakers by a company and just didn't say anything about the title, then I would get a null title. That is not true, okay? So your title is not either not passed at all, or it has like some default value. So if you try to do like a coalesce and think you're safe, that doesn't work because your query actually breaks. It's a syntax error. And the other way is if the LLM suddenly decided, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to make up your title and I'm going to set it to empty string, then your matching and filtering is going to fail, because you would necessarily have to match speakers who had an empty string title, right? And if it's a number, it could be something else. So don't do optional just yet, yeah. At least in this version, don't do optional. If you want to have queries which optionally match by this or by that, write two tools with proper instructions so that the LLM knows to say, okay, if I have only one parameter, I'm going to pick this. If I have both, I'm going to pick the other one, right? So that was extremely puzzling, but I thought it was valuable to share with you, because sometimes,
that is a great tip.
We tend to write this, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me cancel out of this. And here is your import export agent. So you can import from a file. You'll find this agent file in the GitHub. So import it and export it and check it in somewhere if you are under the, if you're like me and you're like very, very frequently tuning and tweaking things, yeah? Okay, next, so one thing you can do is you can make this external, which gives you an external REST endpoint, and it gives you the MCP server endpoint. So in the docs for the Aura agent, it's extremely clear as to how you use each of these. So I'm not going to go through them today. I'm just going to do a bit of a demo. So let's do MCP first. Now, why I like MCP for this one, and I used it in Claude, is because it's so much more relevant, right? When you're talking to yourself with the nodes, with the Aura agent, it only knows what you can ask it. It knows nothing else about you or the world or anything. But if you work heavily, for example, in Claude, right, it's already kind of like made assumptions about you, what you talk to it about, what you ask about, what kind of work you do. And it's a much better experience, right? So that's one part of it. The context is much better. So you can actually ask vague questions and get a reasonably decent answer. And secondly, the formatting is really great, right? So let's test this out. So Alex, what are you interested in attending at Nodes.ai? Let's see if we can build your video.
After having listened to Alessandro yesterday about this Roads to Nodes AI workshop, I'm very interested in context graph.
Okay.
It was a super interesting session yesterday with that.
Okay, let's try this. Talk context graphs, and maybe I'll add a few more things in here because it's referenced in different kind of terminologies, even things like context. So let's do it this way, right? And let's see what happens. So yeah, so you see it's picked up our agent over here. It loaded the tools. I don't have any other tools except Chrome and the browser and the agent. And the thing with Claude is it's gonna do multiple rounds, right? And that is my last gotcha, but I'll come there after we get something suitable from here. So you see the request it's sent is sessions about context graphs, contact layer, decision context, and because it already okay, let me go back here for a bit. We'll come to the results later. So the first one is based on what it understood about the connector, so our server. It just asked the question, and then of course our agent responded as we instructed it to do. What's your time zone, right? But now in this case, the question hasn't come back to me or you. It knows that I'm living in the UAE, so it's picked up Asia, Dubai. So Alex, for today, you're going to just have to imagine yourself living in the UAE because I can't change that right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
But it actually, you'll see that it responded without my intervention. It reframed the question and it said, very confidently, it's going to be Dubai, right? Okay, cool. And then that's the response. But let's have a look, really, right? So we have directly relevant, and there you go, right? Exploring context graphs, and this is actually a panel with Emil, with Jaya Gupta, who started with the context graphs as $1 trillion opportunity. And it's actually perfect. So Alex, you should definitely watch this one. I know I will be.
I should watch it, yeah. I think everybody should watch it. If you're only watching one session that notes, definitely do the
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's different here and the Aura agent is it will try to add its own spin on things. Right now, that's not always the best thing. Sometimes it tends to talk, a little bit of nonsense, but mostly it will give you a bit of a reasoning behind it, right? Okay. And this one talks about, again, Alex is me. I'm Alex for this. It gives, given my role, it knows very little about my role, but fair enough. Okay. Then it picks up future of enterprise AI is context infrastructure. Okay, not bad. Smarter MCP server. So okay, so now you see it's kind of degraded into the context window. Probably because there aren't many context graph talks except the panel talk, right? So it's tried to be helpful. Gone a bit into this, and then it does what Claude and ChatGPT of the world do. They try to add you some free information you don't need, and that's basically these. But maybe they're useful. Context graphs is the one to prioritize. ML is there. Clearly, it knows who ML is. So well done. And that's it. So now let's build a schedule. Build a schedule. Now, hopefully, it will produce a very pretty looking schedule, as it has in the past. But let's see. Okay, yeah. So sometimes you'll see that this goes, a bit back and forth. I have a saved example that I can show you if we have time, and that's kind of good. It tries to ask as many questions as possible. So yeah, okay. This time it's decided it needs. Oh, okay. So this time it hasn't. You see? So I was too vague. So let me stop this. So it's basically decided that it's just going to build me a random schedule based on the things that I like, which is why it started hammering things to the audience. Let me change that. Build a schedule around sessions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. So now it's picked up the IDs that it had in our previous conversation, and it will hopefully move ahead. See what it comes back with.
Pretty okay, cool. So maybe oh, sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Ramona clarified the question on the API key, and she means if we need to set it up or is it provided by Neo4j directly. So in case who's paying the bill, and I think you mentioned this. So when you use it inside Aura, it's a free possibility that we are enabling to you. But if you are using this like Luan is just showing here outside of the Aura dashboard, and you want to do it through REST or through MCP, you need to pay for Aura credits.
And I recommend that you read the latest, Alex, because there was a period, a free preview period. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but it's possible that that's ended. So please read the docs and see where you're going to be charged.
Yeah, and I have, for everybody who's watching right now, I have a form I'll put in chat, and then you can let us know what you want to do with Aura agents, and we get you a little head start with a couple of credits for your account. So just open the form, give me an email, and if you want what you want to do, and send it in, and we'll roll the dice, and a couple lucky winners will get a couple of credits.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so we have our results. Context graphs. Now you can see that I didn't ask it to pull in this talk, right? But it has pulled in this talk purely because of my previous conversations with it, and it knows that that is my talk, right? So clearly I want to speak at my own talk, and I don't want to be attending a parallel talk. So you see that it's pulled it in and slotted in right in there, and that's why I kind of like this, because it makes more sense out of the box. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is what the schedule looks like. A bit of talk, and then very kindly gives me 30 minutes to either fill or take a break. But anyways, apart from this is why I like it. I like using it in Claude or whatever it is you're using that knows more about you and your context, right? I mean, since you're speaking about context, if I were to use it, in VS Code, for example, I don't think it would be that helpful. Of course, you can. So it depends on you as a person, right? If you know very clearly, I want to listen to these things. Doesn't matter where you interact with it. If you want to be lazy and say, recommend what you think I should watch, things like Claude will do it pretty well. We have only a few minutes more, so I want to kind of wrap up. The last thing I want to mention about with MCP, right? So when I went through my first phase of writing like tons of tools and tons of similarity searches, and I exposed it, it worked like pretty reasonably within the Aura agent itself. It was pretty good at figuring out what I should do next. But the moment I exposed it over MCP, I actually found that in some cases it was iterating like 15, 18 times, just trial and error. And when you open the conversation, you see that it's really, really in desperate guessing mode. The reason for that is because the tools that you write inside the Aura agent are not really exposed yet, right? What's exposed is a query interface, so a string. And so you can imagine that Claude is running a bit blind, right? It's got to ask many questions to probe and see where is it going to get an answer, and then try harder, right? And session IDs was the last thing it was going to think about. So that's also the thing that's really important. If you plan to expose over MCP, keep testing on both sides of the fence, and make sure that your tools are well defined, not confusing. Like, if you as a human find it confusing to figure out which one should I use, then I mean the LLM is going to suck, like really. But if you think that it's logical, then you have better chances. So that's the last stumbling block I wanted to talk about. Okay, so last thing. Now, because you cannot access my MCP server, I would have to add you to my project and so on and so forth. Too complicated. I did want to leave you with an application that you can use. It's a very thin wrapper over the REST endpoint, not the MCP, because of the OAuth, right? So this hits the same Aura agent that we've been looking at this evening over the REST endpoint, and all it does is basically act like an interface to it. There are a few pills. You're free to use it. We'll keep this running till the end of Nodes AI. It's built for fun. So if it's rate limited and crashes a couple of times, hang on, refresh, and then you'll be fine. But you can do exactly the same types of things over here. You don't have to use the pills on top. You can type whatever you like, but same logic. And you should have similar answers. So this should actually, I hope this will be helpful to you if you don't want to, build your own Aura agent, even though I strongly recommend that you try, because this is a really simple example. And, once you're doing that, you'll be able to explore more graphs, build more agents. And once you kind of align with, how a graph is really, really valuable to power, AI agents, then you can move on to the next stages, right? So a production
Yeah.
grade agent where you're going to have multiple parts, multiple branches, maybe some conditionals, maybe some evals, maybe extra context, all these kinds of things that you can't do in an Aura agent, right? But I think Aura agents make it very accessible to people to try, to experiment with, and then take your idea further. So, same thing, Neo4j speakers. There are a lot of Neo4j speakers this time, all very good talks. So, I'll leave you with this. Alex will share a link in the chat and GitHub repository. So
Yeah.
in here, you will find a README, which is hopefully quite comprehensive. But there are just two things you need to do. One is set up your Aura instance. You can set up a free one, of course. Pull the backup file from the dump. This is the same DB that we've been using. Restore it into your Aura agent so you have your database up and running. And then simply using the very brand new shiny import export, import the assistant. So all your tools are in here for you with your prompt, everything else.
Amazing.
Import that, save it, and you're off and running. So if you do it the Aura agent way, it's kind of nice because you can add more tools if you like. You can replace some of mine. You can do more specific things based on the data you have in the graph. So that might be as well, a fun practical experiment to do before Nodes AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could
because
see the comment already in chat. With other conferences, you could. I mean, if you keep the data model similar, you can basically use any other conference data and import that as well if you like it, or even change the data a little bit or do some edits, and then you can basically adapt this to any other conference. So if you want to have a personal assistant on conference you want to go to. This is your way.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Luan. I know we have only officially 2 more minutes, but I wanted to cover a couple of questions. Here one, and that should be a quick one. Text to Cypher is similar to text to SQL.
Yeah, I completely missed that. Thanks for pointing that out. Forgot to talk about it. Okay, so the third tool that I should have got to was text to Cypher. I'm not using that at the moment, but it is exactly that. As you said, kind of like text to SQL. What you do is you simply describe what the tool should do, and then it knows enough about your graph, about the structure, the schema, so on, to reliably build your Cypher for you, right? Mm-hmm. So when would you typically use this, right? So you could start with this. In fact, I do encourage everyone start with it and see if it sticks, if it works well, if you have, very well-defined cases, and it's good, it's going to answer your questions and you don't need to bother writing Cypher, right? But in many cases, you will find that sometimes it stumbles a bit, right? Either your query might not be the best, or it might not be the most performant, or it might just not truly match the intent you have. So text to Cypher tool is, I think, a good fallback option, right? Which I haven't included here because this is a very deterministic kind of planner. I'm just not interested in anything else. But you could have it as a fallback, put it into your prompt to say, okay, if no tools match, use text to Cypher, and maybe you can catch those kind of edge questions that you didn't think of while you were planning your agent. And the best case, text to Cypher is going to answer the question. Worst case is you're no better, you're no worse off than had you not written it. But yeah, that's the purpose.
Okay, cool. And maybe let's squeeze in one more. Sorry for everybody else whose question we now cannot cover. Varun asks if we, and I know the answer sort of, but still, are you storing the chat history of the agent conversations as long-term memory in the graph?
No, I'm not going to answer that because I'm not the Aura agent team. I know that the memory, like as is obvious, right, with our entire interaction today, the chat is preserved during that chat. But I think outside of that, it's not preserved, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a question for the Aura agent team, Alex.
Yeah, and I think this is more. This is not what the Aura agent's doing is a great way, but if you really want to do something like preserving chat history, do decision processes, do like what Alessandro showed, I really recommend watch the recording from the Road to Nodes workshop from yesterday. That includes like all these validations, curations, playbooks, history and all of that. That is a very, very complex whole, context graph setup for agentic graph memory pipelining. And I think that is going way beyond of what Aura agents are supposed to be. So I would say if you're really into that and if you want to build that up, then I think this is Aura agents is a great way to learn how to build an agent, how to get started, how to have something relatively quickly and relatively easily going. And then if you say, okay, this is cool, and then there is this much more where you can go really, really deep, and you can do all these things in much more specific ways.
It's really much deeper than this, right? So use the right thing for the right purpose, right? If you come to Aura agents expecting that it's going to be this huge AI system, multi-agent, memory and decision traces, you're using the wrong tool, right? That's where you got to go off and build something. Neo4j has a lot of. I think I had a link somewhere to the AI page. Let me see. Hopefully I put that in the README. Yep. AI systems in Neo4j. There are enough tools for you to actually build a production grade system. Aura agents is great, as Alex said, to start off, learn how agents are. And it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be a plaything, right? Like there are so many cases where you might actually have a small working graph. There's nothing sensitive in it, but you really want to make it accessible to maybe your team, right? Maybe people in your company and say, hey, just interact with my graph through an agent. Perfect, right? You're not going to be hung up about all the things that come with agents. But the moment you want anything more, then you need to use the right tools for that.
Super. Absolutely. All right. Before I let you all go, thank you for watching today. Thank you for joining, for your questions. Sorry we couldn't answer all the questions. There is the community forum. I really recommend if you are having more questions, if you build something with Aura agents, if you're struggling with something, check out our community forum or the Discord server, and we will be able to help you there, hopefully. Thank you very much, Luan. It was an amazing session today. Great hands-on. I hope you have all the tools now in hand for you to play with it. Download the dump and spin up an Aura free instance. Import the agents and just play with it and see how it goes. Tweak it. Do something else, and maybe you can improve on Luan's build in the end, or maybe you have your own agenda of an event that you're going to attend in a few weeks, and then you want to see what sessions you should be watching. This is a great blueprint to go there. If you want to watch more with us, join me next Tuesday, 7th of April. The new Going Meta series will be live then together with Jesus. We're going to talk about knowledge graphs, probably also context graph, probably also agentic AI, and probably also memory. So I think that's going to be the topics that we are looking at the most recently, these past episodes. So I think it's going to be also in the next edition on Tuesday. Nodes AI, we talked about it. Obviously, it's happening on the 15th of April, as I said. So you should really attend. Usually join. It's going to be a fun day. If some of the session names you've seen today are interesting to you, then I definitely think you won't be you shouldn't be missing out. And if you want to meet people face to face, you can also do that. The next Graph Summit event is taking place in Paris on the 14th of April. So should you be in that area, come by and say hi to the team. And yeah, like I said, Graph Academy, Neo4j Aura free enter community pages are there for you. It's a great resource. Learn how to build stuff. There is an Aura Agents course as well available on the Graph Academy. I linked this and all the other links I put in the YouTube video description. So if you watched this somewhere else and you wondered, oh, what's going on here, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/@neo4j. Find this video under the live section, and in the description you'll find all the links that we covered today. And yeah, I think with that, we're done. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy, the rest of the week. And thank you very much again for building this and for the great, show today.
That was great fun. Thank you.